Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coffee Class with Young Screenwriters. We are an online resource and community for young screenwriters, and today, John is back.
Hello, hi everybody, and look at all these familiar names. God, what a gang! Oh, there's
I know, right?
Couple new names though.
Yeah, we've been having some new people pop by, and they've been great. And yeah, today's going to be super, super fun because we're doing a topic that we were just talking about how much people like to ask about breaking into the industry. And so that is everything from like,
thank you,
like selling your first script, getting a magent.
Or getting an agent.
It's like a Liger of representation. Manager or an agent, getting representation, a magent, as we now say, forever and ever. Selling your first script, maybe getting into a writer's room, making connections, our experiences, everything, maybe pitching even. We could get into all of it.
Yeah.
So today is going to be fun.
You set the bar so high. I mean, it's going
to be terrible.
No, let's start with fundamentals. Like, so, John.
Yeah.
What is like the generic advice that you give to people who are like who have no clue, and then like what's the advice you would give to somebody who's like already written a few scripts and ready? Like, let's start with like a beginner point of view, and then go into like for the person who's not ready, and then to the person who's ready.
Can I give you a hypothetical, John?
Sure.
You're in the dentist chair, right? And the dentist says, "I have a daughter who wants to get into screenwriting, actually."
By the way, this is not hypothetical. This is happening right now to somebody.
So what do you say to this dentist whose daughter wants to get into screenwriting about this career?
I say, get that thing out of my mouth. I'm out of here. I'm leaving. Get out. I don't ever want to see you again. Yeah. So what do I say? Dissuade her? No, I say, it's a long road, and it's interesting that because I have so many, I over the years I've had so many students, and the people who are dedicated and are going to do it are dedicated and will do it. And the dentist's daughter, if she's dedicated, if she's also thinking about being a hygienist, it's not a bad thing, then she'll probably be a hygienist. I mean, you've got, one of my favorite or least favorite, I'm not sure which, is that students come to me and they're very earnest. They they're young and they say, I really, really, really want to be a screenwriter. It's all I want. Great. And sometimes that student turns out to be a Cosmo Carlson or a Lexi or an Adam, and they really mean it. But most often they mean, if it's really easy, and if we can get somebody to buy my first script, I would like to be a screenwriter. If I have to write 2 scripts or three, forget it, I'm out of here. But if you could help me, Mr. Warren, if you could help me sell my first script, and by the way, I have good news, Mr. Warren, I've already written it. Anyway, I'm rambling, but
no, you're kind of articulating kind of a big perception issue of people who are just getting into it. And it's, I think it's representative of the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is the phenomena of when you just start to learn about something, you have a huge opinion about your own ability.
What's that called? What was that? That was great. I love that.
The Dunning-Kruger effect. Basically, it's on a graph. It looks like this. Competency is on one of the axes, and like time is the other. And basically, when you start learning something, you think you're really good at it, and then when you start to like delve deeper, your opinion of yourself meets your competency, which is nothing, until eventually an expert, you get an opinion of yourself again. But like when people just start anything, whether it's when I first started playing chess, thought I was way better than I was.
Dunning Kruger, I love that.
Yeah, you should look it up. But basically, a lot of young screenwriters or beginners or students for you, I would imagine they're like thinking, I've started coming up with story ideas, and man, I'm impressing myself. This is
so
really
good. I'm so good. Why doesn't the world know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that I love that, Adam. I'm going to look that up and I'm going to use it. And I'm not, and I probably won't give you any credit whatsoever.
Don't give me any credit, please don't.
Adam gets nothing.
Nothing.
So just to reframe it, just a question. So basically, that's what you would say to somebody who's like has no clue. Basically, this is a long road. You've got to commit to it. You probably don't know what you're in for, and you don't know the commitment it takes to get good enough to sell something.
And you'll find, by the way, the good thing is you'll find out. It will weed itself out. I teach a freshman class, and they're all either Scorsese or Tarantino or something. You know what I mean? And it is the Dunning-Kruger effect. Just going to keep using it now. I love that. So, but
there it is.
There you go. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
As they get into sophomore, juniors, as they get through it, by the way, as it should be, some of them go, wow, the screenwriting thing, lo and behold, is a lot of work. Now, if you've been bitten by the bug and if you love it, it's not a lot. It's still a lot of work, but you can't help yourself because you're just drawn to it, sucked into it. But I probably told this story somewhere back a long time ago, but had a wonderful, talented student, good writer, natural instinct for a story. And he was in a freshman class, maybe with even Alexi. And then his sophomore, junior year, I said, hey, are you Isaac? I remember this. You remember the kid? He was in your class, Alexi. Isaac, red hair?
Yes.
Renner? Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah, real funny kid.
Yeah.
Good writer. So I said to him, Isaac, you taking a writing class? He said, no. I said, why not? He said, oh, Mr. Warren, it's too difficult. And I thought, you know what? No argument. He said, I love to be on the crew. He said, I like to be on the set. I like to be on the crew. And I thought, Godspeed. You're right. So, but I feel like I've gotten off track. Is this making sense?
No, it is. It is.
Well, we're addressing that first bucket, right? But let's address the other aspect. Let's just say you're on the other side. You've actually written a few screenplays and you've done the hard work and you're one of those people who's wired for story. What would you say to somebody in that situation? In that situation, in the context of they don't know anything.
Like they are fully ready to pop off, but they just haven't yet. They've been living in a cave and they emerge.
If they've got a script, I had a wonderful thing happen just this early, I guess late last week, early this week. I had a young man who was in my class several years ago who is not a naturally gifted writer. And he sent me a script, I think last week, and I read it over last weekend, and it was solid. And I'm not just blowing smoke. He's never going to be an Alexi Basil. He's not that good. I'm not just bullshitting you either, Alexi, but he's not that gifted, but he nailed it. He nailed the story. This has got to be his fourth or fifth script. Every script gets better, and he's not a naturally gifted storyteller. I was able to send that script to a producer who loves it. Now, is it going to happen? I don't know, but he's on the radar now. He's on the radar. He's got a producer who has talked to him, who said, I think you did some really nice work here. So Adam, back to your, I think your question, if you've written 3 or 4 scripts, you're going to get better. I've never had a writer, a writer succeed who quit writing. It's never happened. Never had one. I quit writing and they didn't buy my non-script. You keep at it. It is a craft. you will get better. I think Michael Crichton, Michael Crichton's a funny example because his father said to him, "You have to be a doctor," and he became a doctor, and he hated it, and he quit, and he started writing books, and then he wrote Jurassic Park, and if you look at his, I've read some of his books. He's not a very good writer, but he broke the back of story. And we'd all love to have his millions. He's dead, by the way. Anyway, I don't know why I said that, but
what you said reminded me of the quote from Richie Jackson that I tell myself to sleep at night, which is that he's never met a writer who didn't give up, who didn't make it eventually. So somebody who literally just like kind of like the inverse. So like if you give up, you're not going to make it. But then also if you literally keep doing it, and that doesn't mean like dabbling and then kind of like, half doing it sometimes.
No, you're
really pursuing it. You will break in eventually, is what he said. That he's never met someone where that's not been the case.
Yeah,
and try to remember that.
Let me add a caveat to that, though, because that's assuming somebody's willing to. You have a person who's willing to learn from their mistakes.
Yes.
Because I know, I grew up in LA. I know plenty of very deluded screenwriters who wrote 20 scripts that went nowhere. So that is, you have to acknowledge the reality of that.
Yeah.
Fair.
And I can count on the back of my hand, like I can think of 20 people right of that. But almost all of them were not particularly reflective or insightful people who were willing to I'm not going to say any names, but I have a family friend. And he did eventually sell one thing to Lifetime, but that was in the 90s. But the difference between his 5th script and his 20th script was negligible. He didn't grow at all. And you have to be willing to grow. So that's
And by the way, I have good friend of mine. He's an older guy now, and he never sold a script, and he will not listen to anyone. And his scripts all suck. But so you have to be, kind of training yourself. You have to be learning.
So just on the second half of everybody says networking is everything, right? And it's true. Relationships are everything. I'm sure you can bring that up. For example, your student asked you, shared a script with you, and you were the one who shared it with that producer. He leveraged your personal network, and that's part of networking. How would, assuming you weren't a professor and you didn't have professional obligations to your students, and it was just somebody querying you, asking you to maybe read their script, how would that person successfully approach you?
Delicately. No,
it's a good question.
That's a good question.
Assuming they had some acquaintanceship with you, it's not just a total stranger.
Well, I'll tell. Okay. Here's the honest answer. If the person in question seems to have some substance, then I will read the first 30 pages, and I do what I call a studio read, and I'll tell them that. I'll say I'm going to give you. I'll do a studio read. But you better have me by page 30, 35, 40. If you don't, I'm doing the same thing. The studio, what did Lexi call it? A manager? What do you call
it? Magent.
Magent. They're not going to read beyond that. Now, by the way, so I would say, and here comes the harsh news, perhaps. If you're not putting it on the page so that I will, not me, but people in the business will read past 30, you're not doing it. Because here's the other, speaking of caveats, here's the good news. They are desperate to find a great script. They are Hollywood producers, managers, agents, studio executives, directors. they are dying to get their hands on great material. If they're saying no to you, if they're saying no to a script, it's because it doesn't work. Because if a producer gets his hands or her hands on a great piece of material, that's their livelihood. It makes their career as well as yours. So they're not in the business of saying no for the sake of no. They're saying no because it didn't work.
So, but there's an sorry, Alexi, you go.
Oh, it's a little bit off track, but I thought it would be a good way to talk a little bit more about breaking in is to give a recent example of one of John's students who had some big news, who's been on Coffee Class lately.
Did you hear? Yeah, you're probably
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to share my screen and pull up. I assume
cool.
this is.
I want to see this. Yeah, this is. He called me the other day. Yeah.
There it is. So you all remember Cosmo from not even that long ago on Coffee Class. He was in my year at NYU and did some writing classes together. He was John's student. Someone else John mentors. And he was recently announced to be writing a limited series at Showtime about Joan Rivers, starring Catherine Hahn, Agatha, which is super, super exciting. And I thought that this could be a fun way to talk a little bit more about breaking in, kind of like you saw Cosmo start with no scripts and then end up here. So like what was that like? Or
without repeating the story we already told in the last
time. But
which story? The what?
I think we just talk about it.
Wait, I don't what are we in danger of repeating? I don't know what.
Oh, sorry. Never mind.
We can repeat it. I think we're good.
Well, Cosmo was in a class with Alexi and in my class, and one of the hardest. Cosmo is a young man that I would give notes to. He would say thank you, and he would walk out of the room. And a week later, or sometimes less than a week later, he would come back having taken all of those notes. Not that my notes are so great, but they're pretty damn good. So, and they're certainly better than anything, that he's going to get as a student. I mean, what can I say? So, and he addressed them. So, and then the script, his first script was just cooking, it was great. And there again, that's Adam, the story that I know we've told is that I called several managers and agents in LA and said, I'm sending a script to you. You've got to read it over the weekend. And they said, are you serious? You want me to read a student script over my weekend? And I said, if you don't, you'll be sorry. And they all called back on Monday. Again, he had locked the script. It was solid. There was no question.
Valedictorian.
There's no question about it. And the manager calling back and said, I'll sign him now. I'll sign him today.
And that was his first script.
That was his first script.
Just to interject,
it was his fifth draft of that script.
Right, but just to interject that at the end of the day, it's all about quality. Nobody cares about your life story. Nobody cares about how hard you worked. Nobody cares about how many scripts you've written. They care about, is this good material?
Yep.
By the way, again, the manager who called me back and said, I'm ready to sign this kid now. He wasn't doing anybody any favors. He didn't know Cosmo. He knows me, but he's not doing me a favor. It's Hollywood. Nobody's doing anybody a favor. He's looking at it, he's going, I can make some cash off this kid, this young man. Is that too blunt?
No, it's true. Honest. It's true.
If people believe stories about honestly, and nepotism is real in Hollywood, but not as much for writers unless you're good, right? You'll get an opportunity, but if you don't have material, it doesn't fucking matter because nobody wants to base a millions of dollar project on something that's mediocre or bad if they believe it. I mean, there are mediocre things all the time, but quality is everything.
Yeah. 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 So it that was a rock solid piece of work. There was no question in my mind that somebody was going to sign him. They did. And by the way, true to form, then Cosmo continued to work, if not double down. I think he started working harder. And he called me. It's maybe been a year. I don't know how long ago it was. It was a while ago. And we had lunch, and he said, I found I know my next project, which is really weird. And he goes, it's Joan Rivers. And I went, what? Really? And he said, yeah, there's a movie there. And I said, okay, fine.
I didn't know this was his idea.
Oh yeah, it's his idea. This was his idea. I mean, frankly, and this is why I should not be a manager or an agent. I would have said, don't. Joan Rivers, who cares? And no, but when he said to me, no, I got it. I got this movie. And he pitched it to me, and I said, I think you got it. I think you're right. I still didn't think it. I still was curious as to whether or not he could pull it off. And then when I read the pilot, he nailed it.
That's so interesting. Now we all have to do a screening together. Yeah, he did mention it when he came on. I was like, was it an open writing assignment that he hadn't told anybody about yet? Like, what was the deal? That's pretty cool that he is getting
his idea.
That's an original series idea that he's having produced at Showtime.
Yeah. And I think when I last talked to him, I think they're going to let him write every episode.
It's a limited series, so that's more possible.
That's pretty cool.
That's a lot of work, especially if it's an hour each pilot. Is this an hour or half hour?
Hour.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
I think it's hour. I'm pretty sure it's hour.
That's a lot of work.
Seems
but
like...
from again, let's play it from their point of view. He so owned the material. I don't mean that in a literal sense. I mean figuratively. He knows the material that they said, we should just get out of the way.
Because at the end of the day, they only care about the product, right? And if they believe he can execute, that's it. Like, people don't give a shit.
That's right. Yeah.
So here's a question I want to pull up real quick from Rabia. What would you say is the balance between pure writing skill versus networking? This has been my biggest confusion in the industry so far, especially in writing.
Hey, how are you? Yeah. Wow, good to see you. Okay, so the pure writing skill, I'm gonna take a little bit of an issue with that. The pure script that you've written, and maybe you have pure writing skill, and maybe you're tenacious and you work. That comes, but anyway, the writing component comes first. That comes first. Because that's where networking begins. Here's how the scenario would break out. Okay. I'm glad you asked this question. I hope it. I hope you're glad. Let's see. So here's the way this breaks out. And it is script. There, it's locked, it's solid. Now, someone, maybe me, gets it to a manager. Manager reads, says, I want to sign this kid, this young man, woman, whatever. And then the manager, this is actually pretty good because this is true. This is exactly the way it works. The manager says, okay, I love it. I want to sign it. And I'm going to introduce you to an agent. So here's the other side of the table. This is the other side of the business. This is the way the business works. The manager is going to call an agent and say, you're about to fall in love with me because I'm sending you a brand new writer with a brand new script that we can sell. He is not represented. He doesn't have an agent. I'm giving him to you. You owe me. The agent says, I love you. Send me the kid. Da da da. Now the manager name. Somewhere a little further down the line, they say, oh, let's call Fred the lawyer, because now his contract's coming together. Fred gets into it. So they call their buddy Fred. Hey, Fred, we're going to do you a favor. We're going to introduce you to this kid. He's going to take off. So now he's got manager A, but that's the network. The network went like that. Now, bear with me for a second. So, but actually out in front of that, I'm backing up. Let me digress a little bit. The agent and manager are on the phone and they go, you know who we should send this to? We should send this to Jeff Wachtel over at USA. Let's send it to Wachtel. And the agent says, I'm pissed off at Wachtel. He fucked me around on something. Okay, then who do you want to send it to? Let's send it to Matt Lowe's over at Warner Brothers. Okay, so, oh yeah, I love Matt. So they send it to Matt. So now it's gone manager, agent, studio executive, network. Studio executive gets into it. This is what happened to Cosmo. Studio executive gets into it and says, we're going to give it to a director. The director reads it, says, I like it. I'd like to talk to Cosmo. Now it's gone manager, agent, lawyer, studio executive, director. Like that. So that's the net, but it all started with material.
It's like a chain reaction if the material's right. And if the material's not right, it's impossible to start the chain reaction.
Because they're all just doing each other favors. They're all just saying, hey, well, that's another story, but they all have, they're just using their network. They're introducing you into their network, which will expand. And that's why you go with a UTA, CAA, that's why you go with, because they've got a better network.
The way that you explain that too, I like it because it also shows how much it's about individuals responding to your material at every step of the way. So it's like every single one of those people has to be excited enough about it that they want to pull in someone who trusts them because they think it's going to be good for everyone involved. And I think that's like when people are trying to get representation or thinking about pitching or all these things, it's not like I want to pitch to anyone. It's not like I'll go to anyone who will take me. It's thinking about who is actually going to get excited about this material and like whose sensibilities match it, because it's right. About the people, right?
And with the exception of managers, it's all about the material. It's not really, except for like studio head, it's not about the writer. They don't give a shit. They care about the material.
That starts the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And that literally, that sounds like, I don't know, I'm making it up. No, that's exactly. That's how my career worked. It's just how it worked. And by the way, the managers and agents are on the phone. That's all they do. All they do is talk on the phone every day. So when a film, if a studio, this is how tight it gets. If a studio has had a bunch of bombs, like Paramount, Paramount's just terrible, right? So they won't buy, they got no money. But let's say Alan Horn's running Disney and he's killing it and they're making blockbuster. So they get tons of money coming in. Is this too much? Maybe I'm getting too deep into the weeds here. Is this making sense? But
no, not at all. Yeah.
Okay. So what Alan Horn Alan Horn has said, shit, we got all this money coming in. Take X millions and put it in our development fund. So your agent will call you and say, hey, Disney is flush, man. Disney's got cash. Now, by the way, there's an executive from Paramount saying, hey, can you send somebody over? And then my agent's going, you guys don't have any money. Why am I sending somebody over you? You guys don't have any money. You're broke. Your movies suck. I'm sending all my guys to Warner Bros.
So here's a question that I think is kind of
Adam, you look is that not, is this, am I depressing
No,
you?
this is good. No, this is just my face, man. Sorry.
John, I said that to you one time in class at the very beginning.
What?
You said, "Are you okay? You look really scared." And I was like, "That's just my face." Because that's what my face used to look like all the time. And
I'm super neutral right now. I'm just like, yeah, riding the wave.
So this is the question that comes up a lot that I think is a really, really good one. What if I never went to college? No contacts, but I'm ready to get my work out there. What would be my first step? Is IMDb Pro a good option for contacts?
No. IMDb Pro is not, no. You know, this young screenwriters, the people you're going to meet here, somebody's going to get things going. Somebody's going to sell a script. Somebody's going to say, I don't want to do this. I'm going to become a manager or an agent. The one of the difficult things about Hollywood, it's good and bad, is there's no direct, I mean, yes, there's a direct way, write a really strong script, but beyond that, there's no, you know, you meet somebody and they'll say, I'm not making this up. They'll say, my cousin is an agent. And that happens. Alexi's heard this story, Adam probably has too. I mean, I got my first pitch meeting from a Lamaze class. And you probably don't know what a Lamaze class, but it's when your wife's pregnant and you go to this class and everybody's breathing and shit. I don't know what you're doing. You're talking about dilating and, you know, all that stuff. But, and I met a guy in there, his wife was pregnant and he was, you know that story, right? Yeah.
You've shared it before, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, so anyway, I mean, I'm not saying crash Lamaze classes. I'm not saying that.
Please don't.
But, but you know, maybe so. No, I don't mean to be flip. I don't mean to be flip. Keep your ear out. The more you're in environments like this, the more you'll hear about somebody who has a connection somewhere. And frequently it's an agent, kind of you want a lower level agent or manager who's hungry. You want the hungry ones. Get them young and hungry. That's where you want them, because then they'll read your material.
Just to sort of rephrase maybe what your answer in another way.
Yeah.
Anytime there's like a business to consumer interface with an organization, whether it's a screenwriting competition, whether it's a IMDb Pro, you're going to have that funnel become oversaturated. And which means at the end of the day, anybody who's like reading that material is a low level like intern or reader, you know, and those people don't make decisions. You can still get something through then. You could still reach out to, IMDb Pro does have names and stuff, but like those people are over, if somebody has some contact information there, that contact information is being bombarded. And it's very hard to get through. That's what I'm trying to say. And what John's saying is real relationships that are actually based on like you as a human being connecting to another human being are how you and leveraging that. If you have no contacts, you should make contacts. You should make friends in the film industry. You should make friends with people whose cousins are agents.
You know,
any door that you can stick your foot in, because I mean it happens in the Lamaze class isn't even the strangest of ways. Any way you can wedge your foot in the door, you get a toehold. And
so something else. So say though you are looking at IMDb Pro and you're like, this is my way. If you are going to cold email people, I would recommend.
How does that work?
You like get contact information or something, but like
no, maybe it does work.
It can work.
I'm sorry. Maybe I was too abrupt.
No. I think it's probably really hard to make it work. So I was gonna say, if you do it, you're not sending people your full script. You're not out of the blue emailing this agent a PDF of your script saying, read my script. You want to do a real short email that includes your log line, like a short little pitch. and then basically say like, do you want my script? That's what you do. Because remember, they're getting bombarded with tons of stuff.
Yeah.
They don't want your life story. Get that log line up top and try it that way.
And two things. If you approach somebody that way, you have to do two things. You have to know who the person is specifically, and if they're a match for the type of material that you're presenting. And two, you should say something personal about their work or who they are, or something to set your, like, not to just sort of make anything you can do to make it feel like you're not copy and pasting this email to like 20,000 people. Like, say something individual, like, hey, I see you represent this person. I feel like this would be a good fit. I really liked this work, whatever. Like, just something to make it feel like it's not just like a cold email.
Yeah. And then be like, and I think that you might like this. Here's the log line. Let me know if you want to read it. And then get out. But yeah, it is going to be a stretch because those contact information, that will be blown up. But it also reminds me of some stuff that's been getting a lot of traction for someone else our coffee class people recognize. Avi with his competitions.
Yeah. Avi's he's
He's
great
killing
at
it.
that.
He's killing it.
He's great at that. Yeah. Yeah. And his network really keeps expanding.
Mm-hmm.
And Avi's a great
he's got
example.
something in development right now, which is very exciting for him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Avi is a great example of somebody. He was not, not being successful was not an option. Avi was going to be a screenwriter. I knew that. I knew that because he used to follow me to the subway after class every time. Bug the hell out of me.
Good old Avi.
I love it. I'll never forget that. Class would be over. I guess it was an evening class. Class would be over and everybody would leave. And then I'd get my stuff together and I'd leave. And I'd walk into the lobby and he'd go, oh, Mr. Warren. Like it was a big surprise. He had just left my class 5 minutes earlier. He was waiting for me. He was stalking. But he'd go, oh, are you going to the subway? I go, as a matter of fact, I am. Funny you would think of that. Where else would I be going? And then he'd walk with me. I loved him, but he worked his ass off. Avi writes. I bet Avi writes every day.
I
would not be surprised.
Yeah, he writes it.
And yet for the fact that he doesn't, and he's upset when people assume he does. I'm just kidding. That is a conversation I had with him.
That's funny. So I want to mention this because I think this answer has changed recently. Michelle says, would you say moving to LA or New York is still a necessity given more people are working remotely?
Yeah, back when I was doing it 100 years ago, you kind of had to be in LA. I don't think you have to be in LA anymore. You can be here and you can,
I think for the
and also go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, this is John Day.
Also, I just talked to somebody from CA the other day, and they're here. I mean, they've been here for a long time, but all of the major agencies have hubs here. And the nice thing is that they're not as overwhelmed. When I say here, I mean New York. They're not as overwhelmed as they are in LA. So they have a little more bandwidth. They have a little more. So the answer is, I think you can do it from New York, as well as LA.
There are also so many great writers in New York too.
Yeah,
and a lot of production going on here now,
especially TV.
Has been for a while.
Like that. I would say the other thing that I would note about this is that assuming you can find a way to network online or wherever you are, you can start the process of breaking in for wherever you are. And then eventually you will have to start taking meetings in LA or New York or where the industry is. But while you're still writing your scripts and developing and meeting people and doing that kind of stuff, a lot of pitch meetings are happening remotely now. A lot of writers' meetings are happening. And I know that there's even writers' rooms that are happening remotely now. And the people that I've spoken to are basically saying that they hope it doesn't go back. So I think it's still like kind of up in the air about if they're going to stay as like probably not as remote as they are, but there are more options that are coming up, and so you can break in or at least start the process.
Can I add something though, because this kind of course, in a virtual world, Netflix is going to be looking for talent everywhere. People are going to be looking for talent everywhere. You don't have to be in LA or New York, but it is extremely helpful to be in LA and New York, because so many people's cousins have agents in LA and New York. And if you're trying to like just expand your network and like have that serendipitous connection you always hear about, that happens in places where a lot of big media centers, where lots of mid-level people who know executives live, like where basically, you know, wealthy, connected people live. That's like a fact. You can still take meetings in New Zealand if you want, you know, but you're not going to make those serendipitous connections the same way.
Right. Can I share somewhat unrelated anecdote? You know how I love to do these, and sometimes, as you well know, they pop into my head. So again, way back when, and I won't mention last name, but anyway, there was a screenwriter named Ken, and he and I were in LA and working it, and we had a mutual friend, and this friend always having dinner parties, so I'd see Ken at dinner parties, and Ken had 2 movies released within 3 weeks.
Wow.
I wanted to kill myself. And my wife and I are going to this party at Ruth Vitale's house. And I said, oh, God, I hope Ken's not there. And I see that fucker again. I mean, he's going to tell me he's got another movie coming out. I'm going to die. So there's Ken. I go, hey, Ken, how you doing? He goes, I got a movie coming out. I said, yeah.
Sure you do, Ken.
Yeah, great, Ken. Great, Ken. I'm going to throw myself off the balcony. So Ken, who I still see, I can't tell you why, because you might be able to track him. Anyway, so Ken is going, yeah, I got a movie coming out. Yeah, I got another movie coming out. Yeah, I'm killing it. You know, I'm getting offers. I can't even write the scripts they're asking me to write. And then Ken does this great thing. I always love it. And then when it happened, I thought, are you out of your mind? I thought, the hubris. He says, I'm going to Vail. This is a true story. He says, I'm going to Vail. And he tells me this at one of these dinner parties. I said, when are you going to Vail? He said, I'd love to ski. I'm going to Vail. And he said, I told my writer, my agent, don't call me until after 5 p.m. I'm on the slopes. And I'm sitting there looking at him going, you got big balls if you think but maybe you can, because you got 2 movies coming out in 3 weeks. Maybe you're rocking. So Ken goes to Vail and becomes a fantastic skier, and he skis and I think does some other nefarious things, but that we won't go to that. And so Ken stays out there for 10 years. Swear to God, 10 years. He comes back. I run into him. I said, hey, Ken, you know, and he goes, my career dried up. He says, my career dried up. I was like, yeah, you're an idiot. And then there's like a 15-year gap. We never ran into each other again. And I have to be careful, but what the hell? He teaches here. So I ran into him here like 15 years after that. And I go, Ken, how you doing? He goes, good. You know, we have lunch one day. And he says to me halfway through lunch, he goes, do you believe I went to Vail? He said, do you believe I fucking went to Vail? My career was like a rocket ship and I went to Vail. And I said, yeah, I kind of thought that was a little crazy. He goes, yeah, destroyed me. Destroyed my career. I never got back. I never sold it. I never had another movie made. Is that funny?
That's funny.
John, the fact that you find it so funny, I find very funny.
What are you thinking? Going to Vail. I love that.
Oh.
But he told me, he said, but I'm a really good skier.
Well, there you go.
You know, that's the choice he made. That's the choice he made.
Oh, God. Sorry.
And who knows? Maybe he's better off for it. Maybe he's better off for it. The less.
Are you out of your mind? He would have made. What are you, crazy? He would have made.
I'm trying to put a silver lining on it.
Okay, Ken.
I hope. Yeah. Sorry.
No.
Thank you. Some people like my anecdotes. Thank you. Great pleasure was taken. Yeah, I know. Dan, I know. I'm kind of.
It's a good story.
So, I'm just getting back to the sort of the core pain point, because this is a real pain point, because whether or not wherever you are on the Dunning-Kruger scale, even if you aren't good and you think you are, or you are good and you are ready and you think you are ready, you know, both places there is a similar issue of being like, okay, how do I overcome that catch-22? Is it just through serendipitous meeting, good networking, presenting my script in a non-obnoxious way? Like, for example, like when you said, like, if somebody have to be very delicate when approaching you and for you to be willing to read their first 30 pages, is it really just the come down to find the right material, put yourself in the right general network of human beings, and like present yourself as well as you can? Is that how you would sum it up, or would you expand on that?
Me, well, I mean, you know, if you build it, they will come. I mean, if you write that script,
yeah.
I mean that I've known people. I've had students who do coverage, and if a script comes in through somebody's aunt, and somebody in coverage, which is pretty far down the food chain.
I've done it.
Somebody in coverage gets it. Again, they shine if they take a script in that gets. I mean, this is what will happen. Michael Sugar, who runs Sugar, he was at Propaganda. Now he's a big manager, big Soderbergh manager, and but Michael Sugar will. If a coverage person says I gave this A+, this coverage, the script, and Sugar reads it and says, shit, we're buying the script, he will call that coverage person in. So the coverage person's credibility gets lifted. The script. So I'm sorry, I'm just but they're looking for material.
And just to verify that, I did coverage one summer in LA and for a production company, and that was very much the case. Like I was afraid of saying something was good that wasn't good. Right? I didn't want to go up to a producer and say, hey, this is fantastic, and have him be, because immediately I would lose all credibility in his eyes. There's a real pressure for, and there's a real pressure for me to be very careful what I send out.
Yeah.
That was a real thing.
That's another reason to get those first few pages looking real nice, so that the reader is like, I can confidently put this in his hands and not be like, I promise it's going to get better. Like if you just keep, it can't be one of those situations. It has to be that they feel confident to pass it up the chain.
Yeah. Can I talk for a second about what happens next? About what
happens?
Yeah, sure.
So excuse me. Let's say these things happen. Let's say the script really works, and a manager gets excited by it, and so forth and so on. Then you get a phone call, and if you're in New York, it may be on Zoom. But if the script pops, they're going to say, get out to LA. And again, this has happened to Cosmo, when Adam, his agent, when a manager said, he said, he's got to get on a plane and get out here. So now what happens is you walk in the door, and, I'm sorry to be so crass, but this is the business. You walk in the door and they're looking at you and they're going, can I send this writer out to meetings? They're also going to say to you, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but they're also going to say to you, do you have another idea? And you better have one. You better have another idea in your hip pocket, and it better be solid, because what they're going to do is they're going to say, listen, Netflix read this and they love it. They're not going to buy it, but they want to meet with you. Now, if they want to meet with you, but you were a half an hour late to our meeting, are you going to be half an hour late to them? Because right now I'm not feeling so cool about you. But you're on time. You're here. You seem to have a clean shirt on. It's all beautiful. Do you have an idea? I do have an idea. Good. Now I'm going to send you over to Netflix, who loved your script, didn't buy it. Maybe they bought it, but still, they want to meet with you. I want to get you in the room. Because now people are predisposed to being in business with you. You're a baby writer, so you're not terribly expensive. So they may take a flyer. They may say, you know what, let's pay this writer, I don't know, whatever scale is, scale plus 10, or they may make, so they want to, if you're good and they're getting on the ground floor with you, but the agent is looking, when you walk through that door, the agent is looking at you and saying, is this somebody I can work with for the next 20 years? This is true. This is true. Because if they're going to put in the effort, remember, the agent's pushing you, and you're a big ball. You're a big lead ball, and they're pushing you up a hill to get your career started. And they want to know that if they do that work and invest that work and time and energy and effort, that you guys are going to be together for the next 20 years. It sounds, but this is stuff they don't teach in film school. They do not. We do not. And it's reality. So, I remember that day that I walked in the door at CAA and met Rob Scheidlinger. And he looked me over and sniffed me and, checked me out and then said, okay, I can send you to meetings. Let's get going. Let's go now. Let's go now. So, reasonable, responsible, somebody I can work with. It's the movie business, it's a business, and they're looking at you and going, can I,
And just to interject one point, would it not be the case, John, that if they sense at all that you think that you're an auteur, writer, director, that they're going to get you the fuck out of that room? Is that right?
Adam, forgive me, maybe, but it bears telling again. When that manager called me back that Monday morning, and he said, I got one question for you. He said, I know this kid can write. I should not say kid. I should say young man, shouldn't I? But I'm old. I can say whatever.
Human being.
This human being.
Okay.
This wonderful human being. I think I like kid better. But anyway, so he said, I got one question for you. I said, what is it? And I knew what it was. And he said, does he want to direct this? So I thought, I think Cosmo's smart, but we're going to find out right now. I said, I'll call you back in 5 minutes. I called Cosmo. I said, got a guy on the hook here, manager. Do you have to direct it? Cosmo said, no. I said, you're in business. Called the manager back. And I said, no. He said, get the kid on the phone. Let's go. Now, 2 years ago, I had this kid. What an idiot. Oh, I didn't mention his name, so it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. As long as you don't say a name.
Yeah. So this kid comes in and he says, and he nailed the script. Nailed it. He nailed the script. This is how stupid this kid is. And so I said, I'm going to send this out. I said, and then they're going to call me and they're going to say they like it and they like you. And then they're going to say, do you have to direct it? And he says, I do. And I said, and then they're going to say they don't want to represent you. So either you get representation today or you do not. There's no in between. Those are the two principles. It's either or. You get a manager today or you do not. Let's find out how stupid you really are. So he said, I know this material so well. the integrity of my artistic integrity. I love those words. So I said, okay. Okay, young man, I'll call the manager back. Maybe he loves it so much, and maybe he's as stupid as you are. So we'll see. I call the manager back. I said, a kid has to direct it. He said, what are you, crazy? What are you, stupid? He said, no, I'm not going to represent him. What do you mean he has to direct it? Has he ever directed anything? I said, oh, he directed a short and some traffic one day. I don't know what he's directing. So he goes, well, I don't want to represent him. I said, you want to talk to him? He said, I don't want to talk to him. I said, so we're done? He said, we're done. He said, by the way, you wasted my time reading the script. I said, fuck off. Did I know it was? And he said, no. He said, well, anyway, I don't want to deal with him. So I called the kid back and I said, hey, guess what? Done. He said, oh, really? Really? Yeah, really. And then he'd show up about once every week or so. He'd show up at my office. He said, do you think I did the right thing?
Oh, said, no.
No, I do not. I said, do you still, are you still adamant about directing? Yeah, I am. I have to direct it. Okay, get out of my office.
We needed a redemption story at the end.
Story.
Life doesn't have redemption stories.
Swear to God, this is an absolutely true story. I love this. So just coincidentally, I say to a colleague down the hall the other day, let's call this kid, Bob. So I said, I wonder what happened to Bob. He said, I heard, this is a true story. He said, I heard from Bob. I said, what's he doing? I'm thinking maybe he cracked, maybe he wrote another great script. He said he's playing a piano on cruise lines.
Wait, what? There's a script there. There's a script there.
And he has to direct, so we'll see.
There's a script there.
You know those yachts, those ships that go around the world? He's playing a piano. By the way, I didn't know he could play the piano. Anyway.
Everyone said no.
That's funny. Is that funny?
God.
I mean, but it's really just shows kind of, I think it's a naivety more than like, you know, that
it's an error.
Sort of, it's just a lack of awareness of human value, right? Like if you know how people perceive you, you would never over leverage yourself, right? Like, or you don't have, didn't have any leverage in that moment. He doesn't have the leverage to make that claim. If he had awareness of like how people really thought of him and his material and like the real reality of the situation, he would have made a different choice. He made the wrong choice because he had a naive dream that the script would be so amazing that he could get that opportunity that was outside of his leverage.
And, you know, I think if he actually wanted to direct it, then isn't that the kind of thing that you start trying to do independently? Like you wouldn't be going this route. Like you'd be getting representation as a writer director once you've put this together, right?
Yeah,
like you'd be going for funding.
Yeah, what's going to happen with Cosmo is that they're going to make this series, and somewhere during the making of this series, he's going to know everybody at the studio, at the network. He's going to know the director. He's going to know the producer, and they're going to see he's solid. And they're going to say, do you want to direct? And he'll direct.
I would bet you anything he gets at least one episode of that thing.
He might get one episode of that. And if not, I can promise you within the next 5 years, he will direct something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that guess. Let's see.
It's not only Spencer. Humility, and also Adam and I have to, but you got to listen. You got to listen a little bit to people.
Well, it's about individuals. Like that's what it comes back to, right? Like it's about how people interact with you as an individual, and if you're being so like, I don't know, uptight about this decision that isn't going to benefit everybody probably. And it's going to be better if someone else directs it probably, then you're not a team player, right? Like it's a team effort. You have to show that you are a team player.
Yeah. And it goes back to the networking, the network. If you start that ball rolling, the network expands. If you kill it, you're playing a piano somewhere.
Wow. So we have two questions.
Uh-huh.
One is from Rhonda, which is, don't you need more than two ideas in that situation that we were talking about before? Trying to keep yourself in the meeting as long as possible. What John meant, my interpretation, what John meant is that you have another fully developed story pitch and like concept to sell, which would take up a whole meeting. It's not just like, oh, I have 8 ideas for movies that I'm rattling off the top of my head. That's not what he was referring to. Right, John?
Yeah, no, you want to, so, and you also want it to be in the genre that you wrote your first script in.
Yep.
So if you wrote a rom-com and then, you know, so they call and they say, hey, we read the script, we're not going to buy it, or we are going to buy it, but whatever, we want to meet with you. And then they say, do you have another idea? So Rhonda, what you would say, yeah, I got another idea. It's in that same genre because that's where they know you. You could break out of and expand later, but right now, you know, you need to stay in that genre because that's where they feel safe. They're taking a bet on you to buy your next idea, but you do want one, and you really only want one. You start to muddy the water if you say, you know, I've got more than one. You go in with one idea, one pitch idea that's solid, then, you know, that's.
I mean, you can have more ideas in your brain and like in existence.
Yeah,
it's just like choose the next most likely idea that you think that specific person and company would buy, and have that one ready to talk about of all your ideas.
And second question.
And the agent will ask you when you're in the room and he's getting ready to he or she's getting ready to set the meeting. They'll say, "What's the pitch?" I mean, they're going to hear it. Your agent's going to hear it before they send you to Warner Brothers, and they're going to say, "Oh, that sounds pretty cool. That sounds." Because when they call the studio executive, they're going to say, "Hey, by the way, it's about a girl who falls in love with a frog and then he kisses, you know." Whatever.
Is this the other question you want to pull up, Adam?
Yes. So can you comment on the production assistant? I assume they mean writer assistant as well for TV. Some people say you can work your way up the network through that. Just before John speaks, it is a completely legitimate way to get those hyper competitive in television writer assistant jobs, but they can lead absolutely nowhere. I have friends who are in those and they've been doing it for like 3 years and then like goes nowhere, you know, but they can also get you like a basic staff writing job. And it's a totally different route. It's just like kind of a gamble, and getting some of those jobs is like as competitive as getting into Harvard or something. Like, it's like you're competing with like 15,000 applications, and all of these people have gone to film school and stuff.
Hey, John, real quick.
Hey,
you're going to do a micro class for us. John, do you do classes on how to be good in a room? Ready, John? What's your class?
Jeez. Pressure is on.
Yeah.
How to be good in.
We touch on some of this in writing the feature, actually.
Yeah,
we actually do touch on this in writing the feature. We have John goes into that a little bit.
Yeah. You know, you are the product. You are the product. And they are looking you over to say, okay, I want to be married to this guy or this writer for the next 9 months to a year. If it goes well, I mean, I was at Disney writing scripts for about 4 years. Different, you know, material. So being good in the room is being amenable. Is saying, okay, I hear you. I'm going to hear your ideas about this material. I'm not going to say, you know, I'm not going to just throw everything out. I can have a dialogue. I know how to have a dialogue, and being professional. If you know, I mean, you can't. If you're if you have a good sense of humor, you know, that pays dividends. That pays off big time. If you're funny and glib and whatever, then I hate to say it, but it's really, to some extent, it's like seduce. It's
a date.
It's a date. It is a date. It's a date. And they're saying, okay, we're going to put you on this movie. We want you to write it. And for the next 9 months, we're going to see you once every couple of weeks. And we're going to do this thing that we do about 4 weeks in where we call you and say, hey, let's meet for a drink. And then you're going to meet them for the drink. And because they're going to want to say, we're thinking about you. And by the way, how's that going? And they do that. They have some kind of rotation thing that they're on. And then they call you and say, hey, maybe we should grab lunch. Haven't talked to you in a while. So then they take you to lunch. And, and I've seen writers careers really slow down because they didn't know how to play that game. I'm sorry. You like to think that it's so pure and that it's just about the writing, but, one of my closest friends, who was a better writer than I was and smarter than I was, and had about half the career I did, and he refused to play the game. He refused adamantly. It was beneath him. And his ex-wife, my wife and I just saw his ex-wife this summer, and she said, "Do you know that his agent called him and said Harrison Ford wants to have lunch with you?" And he said, I don't want to.
Wow.
Yeah. I think that's why she divorced him. I don't know. But
I divorced him.
Yeah. I mean, it was just, I knew he did shit like that. I knew. And I was always scratching my head going, wow, David, really? Wow, man. He was such a good writer. It was arrogance. His attitude was, I don't play the game because I'm too good.
Yeah. I mean,
he was almost too good, but he wasn't quite too good.
Part of me can be like if it's arrogance, and it's arrogance, but also like I know that I get a ton of anxiety going into those situations, and that like my initial reaction to someone saying like, hey, Harrison Ford wants to meet you. I'm first like, awesome. Then I'm like, no, I can't like that's a lot. So I think that something that's helped me is like what you were talking about is switching it from thinking of it like it's not a job interview. It's either a date or it's like a friend meeting a friend. It's not you being interrogated about this. It's not you like applying for something. It's a chat.
In fact, they don't want the energy to be a job interview.
No.
Right.
And if you come in with the expectation that it's a job interview, that is like unattractive. Right. Like if you're constantly thinking, oh my God, if they say yes, I'm going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars. Oh my God, if they say yes, I can all have that. If that pressure is like crushing in on you, that's going to like poison everything. Like you have to come in with a quiet confidence and hold it lightly. I think that's how I.
And you get better as you go on. You get better. I mean, I'll say this without any modesty whatsoever. No surprise there. That I was really good in the room, and my agent would say, you're really good in the room. And I remember one time we were in pre-production on a movie, and we all had to go to Las Vegas. The producer, line producer, the director, studio executive, we all went to Las Vegas because that's where part of the movie was going to take place. We all went out there for a weekend. And on Monday morning, and this really resonated for me, and I think I've created some anxiety talking about this for some people I see in here, but let me explain. So anyway, but my agent called me on Monday morning. He said, you were really good this weekend. I said, what? He said, you were really good this weekend. I said, David, what are you talking about? He goes, I talked to Dan. He said, you were great. Now, it had nothing to do with writing. And I realized after we hung up, I thought, oh my God, because I kind of stumbled into it, but I realized that it was good, that it was going to pay off. Now, some of you, I'm seeing I've got some anxiety about this. There are a lot of writers. Who don't play that game. and still succeed. I mean, by the way, you can be, as charming as Cary Grant. If you don't know how to put it on the page, it's not going to work. Still putting it on the page is where it happens. That's what you got to do. And the whole thing with meetings and all that, you get better. There were a lot of meetings I died in. I mean, I've killed some rooms, and not in a good way. I mean, so they don't. I had terrible meetings too. God,
if the material and pitch is amazing, like that can make up for a lot. I remember the famous anecdote from Shonda Rhimes. She's talked about her Grey's Anatomy pitch. She was like almost had a full-on panic attack mid-pitch and froze up, but she just stood still and just told the story, and that was enough.
I've had those full-on panic. I had a pitch one time that went so badly that when it was over, the producer, who was a friend of mine, turned to the executive and said, John really is good in the room. And I'm sitting right there. I'm going, hey, I'm sitting right here. And he goes, no. And he said, I just have to explain it that you are. I mean, I don't know what happened, but you are. That's how badly I sucked. Right.
Yeah. And I mean, you don't have to be like, no one's going to be phenomenal in a room every single time. And it's not even that you have to like be excellent in a room. I think the main thing is like being great in a room will get you further. Like you'll be able to like use that to get more connections and make more people want to push your work along. But it's really just like avoid being bad in the room, right? Like
you get better.
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know, get your Sasha Fierce alternate persona and go for it.
And a great piece of advice, one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten, is to practice pitching.
Oh.
Like practice saying the story out loud, hear recordings of it. Like don't make the first time you pitch the story a high stakes situation. Like that's so stupid. Like try it out in your mother, try it out in writer friends, try it out, like do the 15-second version, the 2-minute version, whatever.
And record it. Yeah. Try it out on friends, see how they respond, and record it. Record it and play the pitch back. And go, oh my God, that was a half an hour. I've got to cut it in half or less. Or, oh my God, I listened to it. It's terrible. I used to do it over and over. The beauty of that, Adam, is you're absolutely right. The beauty of that is you know it. You know the story. So all of the anxiety you're feeling dissipates because you go, you know what? Once I start, I know it. I've even had moments when I went up on a pitch, when I was telling the story and went up. I mean, I missed a beat. I go, oh, wait a minute. I left something out. Went back, put that back in, and went on and didn't lose my timing. But that's because that's not me. That's just rehearsal. It's
Yeah.
That's great. I never pitch more than like 20-25 minutes ever.
Oh, never.
Ideally
never.
do it like under 20, 12 minutes. Like if you got like get through it, be comfortable saying it in as short a time as possible.
Yeah, when we do pitches on here, we try to ask people to be between 8 and 10, but like 15 as a hard cutoff.
Yeah.
And if you can do it in that time, then that's great. And then also another excellent, like Theo mentioned it already, that she's always available for anyone to practice pitching. Come into our Discord and meet other writers and pitch to each other. Like writers and other people who know story are great people to pitch to.
Yeah, because they'll give you, yes. Tell that story as often as you can. Because people go, I understand that, or oh, that's cool. I like that part.
And
I go into this pitch meeting one time for Penny Marshall. Remember, she did talent for she did that girls baseball movie. You know who Penny Marshall was, right? Penny Marshall. No. She was a big director. So I get there, and you don't even go to studio. You have to go to her house. And I go to Penny Marshall's house, and I'm sitting there in the den waiting for her. It's really plush, really nice, everything. And she comes in. She goes, "Hi, it's nice to meet you." And I go, "Oh, great." And she goes, "I may get a phone call. I'm waiting for my dentist because I have a throbbing toothache. I have an abscess." I'm going, I'm pitching a comedy to a woman who's got a toothache. How
Oh,
terrible
no.
is that? Is that funny? It just died. We just died. It was just terrible. She's holding her ice pack to her. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Oh, yeah. Oh, my tooth. God, is that terrible?
Oh, no.
Great.
Yeah.
But after you have those experiences, like that must be kind of like it raises your confidence, right? Like I've already fucked up. Might as well.
Yeah, you're kind of going,
Can't be worse
can't
than
get
that.
worse. Can't get worse than that. I called my agent. I said, do you know she has a toothache? He said, what? I said, yeah, she's waiting for the dentist to get her tooth and she's throbbing toothache. And I'm trying to pitch a comedy. He goes, oh my God. And I said, so I died. Yeah, we're dead.
Sometimes things just happen that you can't
Things
predict. And
One thing I
then
want to add. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Before we go to never
Be
ever
their
be
own.
self,
Yeah, that's it.
never ever be self-deprecating in the room. Ever. Never be self-deprecating in an email to an agent. Never be self-deprecating ever. That's not to say don't be humble. There's a difference between or I should say, don't be arrogant, but don't be self-deprecating. Like if you say, oh, well, I'm only just, I just got out of film school, or, oh, this is only my third script, or, oh, the moment you say that, you're giving them reasons to say no to you.
Yeah. And it's like, if you have this idea and you're like, I'm not sure if this is great, but,
oh God, don't say that.
like, but
this
people
part
do.
doesn't really work. I'm going to work on it more.
If they can smell that you're not confident, they're out of there.
And no. And Dilla had an interview where his pants ripped and
oh my God,
he forgot his deodorant.
Oh my
it's a travesty.
God, that's bad.
There's a question right now asking if a question could be asked about character arcs and other topics. Today we're just breaking into the screenwriting industry, but if you have like one question in the last few minutes before we log off, feel free to ask. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We love talking about story and bullshit, like that.
John, you know what I just remembered randomly? We have never done a list of all the books on your shelf. I have wanted to do that since the beginning of time, and we've never done it.
What's the percentage of books on the shelf that you haven't read and just put up there for people to see that they're on your shelf?
All of them. I've never read. I don't know how to read. I'm illiterate.
Yeah, ask your question.
This is a book you should all read. Wait a minute. I just found it. Where is it? Oh, here. This is a book you should all read. George Sanders. This is a book you should read.
Oh, he's amazing. I haven't read that one, but he's such a good writer.
Swim in a Pond in the Rain.
This is a brilliant book for. It's the only book on. That's the only book on the bookshelf I've read, and I just read the back flap of that one. I know.
So
have you read Lincoln in the Bardo, John?
Yeah.
That's
and by the way, Adam, I'm just going to be really, really obnoxious, okay? Because you spur me on. Okay, you ready? This is really obnoxious. I shouldn't. I'm not even going to tell my wife I did this because she's going to go, "You're an asshole."
Wait. Oh, Proust. Oh, you're getting into the good
fancy
shit.
Pants.
That's not obnoxious.
It's the first time I've read Proust. But
Proust. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I know Proust. But it. Yeah. Anyway, I know that was obnoxious, but what the hell?
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a time limit for this career? What I mean is there a higher chance of success at a younger age due to any bias?
You don't have to worry about that for a long time. You don't have to worry about that for a long time. There is for writers, and I can say this from experience from teaching, a level of maturity that without it, you know, and there's no other way to get maturity than get older. I frequently see young writers in class who are dedicated. They don't have the maturity to understand human nature well enough to write a wonderful story. So the age thing I mean, I'm old, and my career ran for a long time. I mean, I got, but you don't have to worry about that right now.
I also think that 18-year-olds, there's a bias against really young people. Like, people don't want to give opportunities if you're like literally just out of high school or something. So like there is a sweet spot around 25 where people start taking you more seriously.
Yeah.
That's a real thing too.
Yeah. But I do think you can, like, people break in later. Like, I see lists all the time of people showing like when people broke in or like what their first big project was, and people break in later too. So I mean, it might be like optimal between like 25, 35, 40, like somewhere in there might be like the easiest, but I know that people do break in later.
Yeah.
So nobody asks how old you are.
Absolutely.
It's like if you're in your 30s or 40s, don't worry about it. You're still like,
even if
if you're energetic and you're in your 50s or 60s, but like, and you're like great in the room and you've got a great material, people don't give a shit. Like, and there's a movement against ageism in like tech companies like Netflix right now, where they're trying to get older voices because there are some great stories that are neglected. Like, they're going anywhere where there are great stories that are neglected. As long as there are great stories with great material, that's the end. That's the whole thing. I think somebody would rather have a pitch from a 40-year-old than a 17-year-old, probably.
Yeah, I see kids all the time in my classes who are talented. They haven't lived. Not their fault. They haven't lived enough to really understand life.
If you're asking this at 24, you are not old.
I'm 29. You're fine.
Yeah, you're fine.
Even if it's just for my sanity, that has to be fine.
You know what happened today? Someone posted about our 10-year high school reunion and if people want to start planning it. And I was like, no. I'm not going back to the station. John knows.
Yeah.
There's one question that's like a multi-part question that I have an answer to.
Right.
And it's basically somebody put their concept of like, okay, they want to show a story with a selfish playboy who turns into a family.
Oh no, that was a reference to Iron Man.
Oh, was it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, here we go. It starts here.
Oh, I missed the first part of the question. Sorry.
So this is our character question that we will end with for now. In Avengers Endgame films, a change in the arc of Tony Stark is shown. But how to show... So basically, the question is about the fact that Tony changes over the course of several Avengers films instead of like the traditional protagonist, like having an arc from beginning to end of a film. And like, what's the deal with that?
Yeah, so they've broken it like a limited series.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
But
I mean, so the resolutions and
the first Iron Man movie though has a complete internally consistent standalone arc.
Yeah.
So like you have to discount that, and the other ones are after. Like, I think the first of the 3 Iron Man films do have their own independent character arcs. Like, they do function standalone, and it's more like the Avengers line of films.
Yeah,
so you have multiple characters.
Because he's not the protagonist, so he's not going to be doing the arc necessarily. So, yeah, I would agree. Yeah, he's like, you can either look at it like a series once the Avengers stuff starts, like he's going to have this arc at the beginning to the end, and then like within that, you also have when he's the protagonist of the film, he does have an arc, even if it's not like a complete character change of like the complete playboy to sacrificing himself in one little thing.
It's like from here to here, he had a character arc. And then the next movie, it's from here to here, he had a character arc. And each of those, it's like a different issue, right? Mm-hmm. Like, he doesn't become a family man in the first movie, but he stops being a megalomaniac, selfish playboy who doesn't care about anything other than himself. He starts caring about something other than himself. He decides he wants to become a vigilante superhero with his wealth. He wants to invest it in making the world better, not just enriching himself off weapons manufacturing,
By the way, and those are all, that's interesting to talk about because those are all questions that were addressed at the studio. in story meetings. They nail this down. You know.
And then, John, what do you think about this? I guess we can end with this one instead. So I read once that it takes about 10 years of writing before you produce anything good. What do you think about that, John?
I think that's a little long. I think it's different for everybody. I don't think it takes 10 years. I do not think it takes 10 years. And by the way, on that note, here's a suggestion. Sometimes you might shorten that span or whatever it is if you can find material to adapt. Because if you find, I don't know why he comes to mind. I don't know why. Maybe because he's got the book up here. Vonnegut. Kurt Vonnegut. So you find a Kurt Vonnegut movie, he's already done the work. The story's there. And so maybe you're a 20-year-old young man, young woman, and you go, I don't have the life experience that Kurt Vonnegut did at Dresden during the war, but I can take this material and I understand story, so I can take the book and do an adaptation and break the screenplay out of a story that has more weight than anything I would come up with. And that I have an exercise that I do in advanced in a screenwriting class, which is every week a student has their turn to bring in a news story. They bring in a story from the news, reality-based story, and they tell what the story is and then how they would turn it into a movie. Mm-hmm. So they don't have to come up with a story. The story's there. They just have to break it. So it does two things. It helps them understand structure, and it gives them stories that may have more weight than what they have the life experience to have accrued.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Do you have anything to add on that, Alexi? Because I have an opinion before we move on.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think everybody has their own journey. I think the only thing that really matters is that you have an ability to improve yourself. If you don't have an ability to improve yourself and be really, truly reflective, and I don't just mean like being self-critical for being self-critical, because that can just be overly done too, but if you have the ability to honestly evaluate where you are, you can always get better. And that might take certain people a longer time. It might take some people sell their first scripts. Some people sell their 10th. It's different depending on who you are. You'll never sell anything if you're not able to actually make yourself better.
So then on this question real quick about writing the pilot, that is something that Adam and I are working on. And right, some of you know in our writer's room, we're doing a pilot development lab with some of you right now, where over the course of a few months, we're writing a pilot together, everybody writing their own pilot and Bible and things. And so Adam and I, we started production actually a while ago. And then through that, we figured out a better way to start teaching it. So good news is it's going to be a better course. The medium news is that it means that we are doing production now. So
it's going to come out in fall, fall. It will come out for sure. Might be in October, might be November. It's going to come out one of those months.
Yeah, but it's a coming, and we're excited about it, and so we're eager to share that with you.
Okay.
All right, everybody.
All right.
Thanks so much, John, for joining us.
Yeah.
We'll be happy to have you again next
Thank
month.
you. Thanks for having me. Good to see everybody, and all of you familiar and the new people. Nice to see everyone. Thanks. And I'll be back sometime soon, I hope.
Yeah, and if you all have something you want us to talk about with John next time John is on, please let us know in the Discord, and we will definitely consider it, because we're always open to that. And then a little bit about next week, we're going to do something like what we did with the Pixar films a while ago. We did a coffee class where we looked at 3 different Pixar films and talked about just character arcs in Pixar films overall. We're going to do something similar like that about a topic where we're looking at 3 other films, and we will announce that over the weekend. But so we're super excited.
And dead mentors. Pixar, they love dead mentors.
Yeah, they love and Disney loves killing the mom.
Yeah.
Right.
So does John, though. So
do I.
Yeah. Just don't give her cancer.
No, God, no more mom with cancer. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.